Hey kindergarten, today we're going to do another one of our deep dives. And today our deep dive is all about opposites in our book, The Story of Ferdinand. If you remember, Ferdinand is the bull. And yesterday we talked about the opposites and some of the describing words. So remember, opposites are two things that are the most different from each other. Now, I do have a question for you. Was Ferdinand opposite of the other bulls in the story? Why or why not? Go ahead and think about your answer. If you have a learning partner near you, you can share your answer now. So Ferdinand was opposite of the rest of the bulls because he was very different from them. They liked to fight, but Ferdinand, he liked to smell the flowers. And when the other bulls liked to run, Ferdinand was always liking to sit quietly and nicely. Today, we're going to explore the opposites of action words, or words that tell you what the characters are doing in our story. I'm going to open up to page 12. While I do this, I would like you to pretend that you are Ferdinand. The text says, but not Ferdinand. He still liked to sit just quietly under the cork tree and smell the flowers. So Ferdinand liked to sit. He was the opposite of the other bulls. If Ferdinand liked to sit, what would be the opposite of sit? If you're at home right now, you should do the opposite of sit. Right now I sit, but when I do the opposite of sit, I stand. So sit is the opposite of stand. Why don't you practice? Sit and then stand. So let's also think, what did we learn about Ferdinand by exploring how his actions are opposite of the other bulls? Let's read some more. Ferdinand knew that they wouldn't pick him, and he didn't care. So he went out to his favorite cork tree just to sit down. But the 5 men saw him, and they all shouted with joy. Here was the largest and fiercest bull of all, just the one made for the bullfights in Madrid. So they took him away for the bullfight day in a cart. Seemed that Ferdinand was picked, and the other bulls were not. How does Ferdinand feel about getting picked? Think about it for a second. And if you have an answer, you can say it out loud or share it with your learning partner. I think Ferdinand did not like getting picked because he didn't want to fight. He wanted to sit peacefully under the cork tree. So let's talk about the opposite of pick. Being picked is being chosen. So if you're not chosen, you're not picked. So the opposite of picked is to not be chosen or to be left out. Ferdinand wanted to be left out, but the opposite happened. He was picked. How do you think the other bulls are feeling about being left out? Take a minute, think about your answer. You can share it by saying it out loud in response to me, or you can tell a learning partner. Our next word that we're going to listen to for opposites is shout. Ferdinand ran to the middle of the ring, and everyone shouted and clapped because they thought he was going to fight fiercely and butt and snort and stick his horns all around. But he didn't fight. So as the crowd was shouting, they were yelling and cheering loudly. Would you yell and cheer loudly if you were in a movie theater? That seems to be the opposite. If you're not shouting, you might be speaking really quietly, like in a whisper. So the opposite of shout is a whisper. When would you whisper? Think about it. You might whisper in a movie theater, or in the classroom, or at nighttime when you want want to be quiet, you whisper. And you shout when you really want everyone to hear you. Right now, I'd like you to act out. Shout. And now act out. Whisper. And say the opposite of whisper is to shout. Awesome. We're going to have some fill-in-the-blank answers for me to check your work on knowing the opposite action words from Ferdinand. I'm going to read them to you now. Ferdinand is different from the other bulls. He likes to sit and they want to... Next one. The men come to pick the best bull. They will blank the other bulls and they will be sad. Last one. At the bullfight, the crowd likes to shout. At movies, crowds prefer to... Fill in the blanks and submit it on Seesaw. Bye, everybody.